When you think of the Mughal Empire, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably the Taj Mahal, right? Opulence, splendor, unbelievable riches. But what if the story isn't that simple? What if, according to the source material we're digging into today, that very same empire was built on top of one of the most miserable countries in the world at the time? Let's get into it.
So how does that even work? I mean, on one hand, you've got a dynasty that is literally dripping in gold, often called the wealthiest on the planet for its time. But on the other hand, the source we're looking at paints this incredibly bleak picture of the land they ruled, a place of just deep, widespread poverty. How could both of these things be true at the same time?
All right, to really get our heads around this, we're going to unpack the main arguments from the source article. We're going to look at the specific numbers and the historical accounts it uses to make its case for this massive economic split, this tale of two Indias.
So here's the core claim the source is making, and it's a big one. The richest dynasty ruled one of the poorest peoples. To see how it gets there, we're going to follow the evidence it lays out, focusing on three big questions. Where did the money go, where did it come from, and what was the ultimate price the people paid?
Okay, first up, where did all this money go? Well, the source article claims that a massive chunk of the empire's wealth didn't even stay in India. It argues there was this constant one-way flow of capital, a great wealth export heading out of the country.
And according to the source, this wasn't a late-stage thing. Nope, it started right from the very beginning, with the founder, Babur. The article points to his own memoirs, the Babunama, which apparently cataloged all these lavish gifts he sent abroad after conquering India. We're talking gifts to family, holy men, even entire cities all across Central Asia and the Middle East.
Now, to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, the article highlights one single donation from Agra back in 1576. The number is 600,000 rupees sent out with a Hajj caravan. Now that sounds like a lot, right? But what did that number actually mean back then?
Well, this is where that number becomes just mind-boggling. According to the source, while that 600,000 rupee donation was being sent overseas, the average barber was earning just half a rupee a month. That one gift was an absolutely astronomical, life-changing sum for any regular person.
And this wasn't a one-off thing. The source says this pattern of wealth flowing out just kept going for generations. It even quotes the Cambridge History of India, which describes how, by the time Aurangzeb was in power, the empire was basically seen as a soft milch cow. Foreign embassies weren't even really for diplomacy, they were just begging expeditions.
If you thought that last number was big, get ready for this one. The source claims that in a span of just 6 years, Aurangzeb sent 70 lakh, that's 7 million rupees, to other Muslim countries. To put that into perspective, the article says that was nearly twice the entire government revenue of England at the time. Just wow.
So the obvious question is, right, if all this money is flowing out, where on earth was it all coming from? And that brings us to the next major point from the source, a truly crushing tax burden that it says was placed right on the shoulders of Indian farmers. And the source uses this chart to make its argument really clear. It presents data suggesting that under previous Hindu rulers, the tax on what farmers grew was around 16%. But under the Mughals, that rate supposedly skyrockets to somewhere between 30 and 50%. That is a massive, massive jump.
And to back this up, the source points to the work of historian Irfan Habib, who apparently described the Mughal state as being essentially extractive in character. The argument here is that the whole system was designed to basically squeeze every last drop of surplus from the farmers, leaving them with just enough to scrape by.
Okay, so we've got money flowing out and taxes going way, way up. What did that actually mean for the people living there? This is where the source gets into the really devastating human cost of this whole system.
This right here, this is a really stark comparison the source makes from Shah Jahan's reign while a massive famine was going on. On one side, you've got a gift to his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, 50 lakh rupees. On the other side, the entire budget for famine relief for 7.4 million people, just 100,000 rupees.
And that famine, it was beyond catastrophic. The source claims it took 7.4 million lives in just 2 years. And it goes even further, arguing the disaster was a direct result of Shah Jahan's own military campaigns and scorched earth policies in the very same region.
And the source brings in accounts from people who were actually there to see it. It quotes a French traveler, François Bernier, who was in India at the time, and wrote about a tyranny so excessive that it literally left the working people to die of misery and exhaustion.
Bernier's account, as presented in the source, paints a truly grim picture. He saw peasants who were so desperate they just gave up. They abandoned their land because they couldn't survive. And he even wrote about their children sometimes being taken and sold into slavery.
So all of this, the wealth drain, the heavy taxes, the immense human suffering, it all builds up to the source's final major argument, that the Mughal elite, from start to finish, saw themselves as a foreign ruling class with very little actual connection to India.
And it lays out a few key pieces of evidence. For starters, the language of the court wasn't local, it was Persian. In the harem, they spoke Turkic. And maybe most telling, if you were a newcomer from Central Asia, you had a much better shot at getting a top job than someone who was born in India, even if their family had been there for generations.
But maybe nothing sums up this alleged feeling more than a little piece of poetry. The source shares this couplet, apparently written by one of Babur's own top commanders as he was leaving India to go back home. He wrote, "If safe and sound I cross the Sind, blacken my face ere I wish for Hind." He's basically saying, I'd rather be publicly disgraced than ever want to come back to India. That's pretty harsh.
And that really brings us back to the central question the source forces us to ask. Was the Mughal era this glorious golden age we often hear about, or was it something else entirely? Was it, as this article argues, a parasitic state, one that grew rich by draining the very land it ruled, leaving the people impoverished? That's the paradox this source leaves us with, and it's definitely something to think about.